recording now. I didn't know that it would read that out loud. So this is being recorded. We are streaming live on Facebook starting now. All right. Again, thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Caleb Talley. I'm the Director of Marketing and Events here at the Startup Junkie Foundation. For those of you who are not familiar with Startup Junkie, or maybe this is your first Startup Junkie event, Startup Junkie is a mission-driven organization based in Northwest Arkansas that exists to empower innovators and entrepreneurs. And we do that by providing support, inspiration, and education for entrepreneurs and innovators and small business owners through one-on-one consulting, access to resources, events, workshops, programs. The goal is to to remove barriers for historically underserved populations by democratizing access to entrepreneurial resources and providing strategic support to any individual seeking to establish or grow their business. And everything we do comes at absolutely no cost to the entrepreneurs or small business owners that we serve. So we are a free service. We're glad you're with us today for this webinar. As you may know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and mental health is workforce health, and it's an important subject, and we're pleased to have Alison Nail-Malone here to lead this conversation with us. She's a professional coach who engages executive leaders in companies and in communities who are committed to creating an employee and constituent experience that produces a healthy workplace and that is purpose-driven, generative, and fulfilling. The promise of partnering with her and her team of professional coaches is the ability to have thought-provoking and creating process that inspires you or your team to maximize personal and professional potential. We're honored to have her back with us today. She's conducted a couple of these workshops for us before, and they've always been so valuable, and we are glad to have another one. So thank you, Alison, for being so ready and willing to serve our entrepreneurial community and through this presentation. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Caleb. So everyone, I'm just giving you a heads up right now. In order for this to be fun for everyone, I'll need you to engage with me. And so the way that's going to look is you can use the chat feature. I'm going to utilize a platform called Poll Everywhere. So have your phone ready. So as I get things pulled up for us, I'd love to just kind of hear from you all in the chat. Now that a lot of the COVID restrictions are being released and travel is starting to happen, I'm telling you, I'm so excited about this. Just if you would write in the chat, if you are going to go on vacation, you can either just put a 1 in the chat, or if you want to say, you know what, I already know where I'm going to Miami this weekend, put that in the chat as well as while I pull up the presentation for today. So this is a great time to interact with me. Whoops. Let's get back to the front here. How are we doing in the chat? Oh, I wish I was going to Miami. Yes, vacations. I cannot wait for this to happen. So today we are going to be talking about mental health and wellness as entrepreneurs, as business owners. A couple of people said they're going to be camping this weekend, staying home. That's a great place to vacation at. And the Mulberry River, I'm excited. I love that space. And so this is a topic I'm really passionate about because I'm a business owner myself, and mental health and wellness for individuals is incredibly important to me as a person, as a contributor to my community, and as a coach. So the things that we're going to cover today, we're just going to identify the key differences between what anxiety and stress is. The early warning signs are kind of the proof of what burnout and stress and anxiety causes. Oftentimes we recognize it a little too late, or someone tells us like, hey, you need to chill. And we're going to talk about 4 different strategies or key strategies to really increase your stress and resiliency. So I want to start with this quote. I'm definitely a sports fan. I love the NBA, and I think Kevin Love has a really great quote here. Everyone is going through something that we can't see. The thing is that because we can't see it, we don't know who's going through what. we don't know when, and we don't know always why. And so mental health is an invisible thing, but it touches all of us at some point or another. It just truly is a part of life. So I'm curious if this quote resonates with you. You can type a 1 in the chat for me. If this resonates with you in some way, either as an individual who kind of has an invisibility mental health and wellness challenge, I raise my hand in that, or if you know someone in your circles that are as well. So I'm going to be utilizing this tool called Poll Everywhere. Now, you don't have to use this. You can definitely use the chat if you'd like. The advantage to using Poll Everywhere is that it's anonymous, and particularly when we're talking about a very personal issue and challenge, anonymity, being anonymous is helpful in this. So you can either pull up a web browser and put pollev.com/Alison N with 2 N's 677, or just pull up your phone. You're gonna be texting with me, so the number to text with me is 22333. And then before you start really texting me, put in Alison N 677 and hit enter. You can always use the chat as well to connect with me. But this gives you an anonymous way to interact with me too, particularly if there's some more personal questions in there. So hopefully everyone has that already. You don't have to download anything. All you have to do is type in your answer to what you hope to get out of today's session. You can just press in A, B, C, or D. Or if there's another reason that you'd like to share in the chat, you're welcome to do that. This is a great, and it's a free tool. So if you are doing any trainings or you're engaging people with a client in a virtual setting, Poll Everywhere is a really great resource to use. So it looks like the majority of us are saying that really we want to learn more about those mental wellness strategies. So you're in the right place. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to share a little bit more about me. Kayla did a great job of introducing me, but the one thing I wanted to share with you is that I'm a small business owner too. I've technically been in business for myself over 8 years, and I'm trying to get my feature here to my camera to show up, and for 3 years as a full-time gig. It was a side gig for so long, and so I held a 60-hour week plus job, corporate job, and running a business. And it wasn't until I started to burn and crash that I realized, one, I needed to make a choice, but also I really needed to spend some time focusing on my wellness, because I wanted to be present for my clients and the team that I knew eventually would be a part of Malone Consultants Group. And we really focus on individuals as well as groups and organizations. And this is one of the areas that we kind of focus on. So as you kind of read through this list, if any of this resonates with you as a small business owner or as an entrepreneur, these are some of the challenges that we face. If any of these resonate with you, or all of them resonate, you can type a 1 in the chat. But depending on the type of small business that you have, these challenges include: we regularly put in the long hours and tend to work very intensely to meet the demands of our business and our clients, or for some of us to getting our business off the ground. And then you're talking about COVID that kind of put on top of that. And then if you're from a group that is historically marginalized, that's compounded even more so. It's undertaking business-related activities such as all the emails that come in, it's calls after hours, and it tends to kind of blur the lines of work and home, particularly. And that was pre-COVID. During COVID, it has been even more challenging to draw the line between home and work. We tend to feel a lot more isolated because we don't always have someone that kind of share the experience that we're having as a business owner. We also are the ones that have to manage the ongoing cash flow. When's our next client going to come? I gotta chase these invoices now. And then we also have multiple roles that we manage, not just within the business itself, but within life on top of the roles that we have to play within our business. And of course, we feel responsible for our company. We feel responsible for the people, the vendors, the connections that we have that make our business successful. And then, of course, we have concern and feel responsible to our families and our communities in which our businesses are in. But I really wanted to share, I'm kind of a numbers and research nerd, so I wanted to share something with you on with the Gallup Wellbeing Index. And according to them, so this research was actually done around 2012, and then some of these numbers have been updated pre-COVID. So I want to let you know that as I was doing some additional research over the last couple of weeks, these numbers have stayed essentially the same with a slight increase, which I think is very interesting, because I think as small business owners, we've had to really, and I hate using the word pivot because now it's just kind of oversaturated at this point, but we really had to evolve. And we had to evolve in big ways. But what the Gallup Wellbeing Index discovered was that 45% of the entrepreneurs in their research database said they reported feeling more stressed out. They worried a lot more than their counterparts that work in the corporate world. And that they typically have higher numbers. I'm not so sure about this, but they said that they typically have higher numbers, or at least report higher numbers, I think is really how they reported it. They report higher numbers of having both personal family and or family, or they know someone with a mental health history. But on the positive side to that, we also, as small business owners and entrepreneurs, we tend to experience higher levels of really being engaged in what we're doing because, hey, we created something from scratch. We also have at higher numbers that we're experiencing our best possible life at higher numbers than those that work in the corporate world, and that we actually enjoy more days than not. So I share this as not only are we had to evolve pretty quickly and we have high stress levels with it, we kind of live in a dual world where we're also like in love with what we do. Otherwise, why would we be doing what we're doing as small business owners? So I'm curious, you know, you can either take yourself off of mute, you can write in the chat, or, you know, utilize Poll Everywhere here to engage with me. Like, why as business owners do we say we're still going to do this even though there's been stress involved in this? Like, why do we live with the stress and really kind of challenge our mental health and wellness as business owners? So someone's already mentioned, I have to push through it in order to get things done. I actually thrive off of this stress, but maybe I might be a little burned out. I know the stress is not so bad, really. I'm not sure, or there might be another reason. This is really indicative of our world as entrepreneurs. What I love is the other places that I have done this, that I did a very similar talk within the corporate world, and it was higher on the numbers of what other options do I have. So I find that really fascinating because as entrepreneurs, I feel like we're at higher levels of saying we actually get to choose this. So we learn how to navigate through the stress that we experience, the anxiety that we experience, and the challenges that we face with that. So thank you for your openness on that. So just kind of reiterating that again of, you know, why we decide to live with the stress. Part of it too is that as a business owner, there's a little bit, well, there's a stigma anyway of having mental health issues. And I know for me, it was a big thing as a corporate leader, as a community leader. I didn't want to talk about the challenges that I was facing, like the depression that I was feeling or the burnout that I was experiencing, because then, especially as I started moving into being an executive and leadership coach, like who wants to work with a coach who says they've got mental health issues, right? But what I started to discover as, without telling too much of the story, but sharing, like, these are real challenges that I'm facing. These are challenges that my clients are facing. More and more people were coming out and saying, I'm facing this too. So I don't feel as alone as I used to. And so what I want to talk about next is the difference between what anxiety and what stress is, because everyone experiences stress and anxiety at some point or another in their life. And the difference between them is that stress is a response to a threat in a situation. And then anxiety is a reaction to that stress. So stress is typically caused by an external trigger such as a work deadline or maybe chronic illness, or maybe there's a disagreement that's happening. Anxiety is defined as persistent, excessive worries that don't go away even in the absence of a stressor. So stress is kind of that natural response to a challenge. Our bodies were kind of designed to do that in order to survive certain situations. And then anxiety kind of shows up as stress can increase or decrease, but anxiety starts to show up with these early warning signs. It can be finding it more difficult to concentrate on tasks or being present with your client or with your team. It can be frequently being tired or fatigued, and this is kind of one of those chicken or the egg type things. Stress and anxiety can cause feeling tired or fatigued, and feeling fatigued and tired can cause stress or anxiety as well. It's sometimes those early warning signs are we might be consuming more alcohol or other coping mechanisms just to not feel it or to just deal with it later. Sometimes it's finding it hard to make decisions. I know for me, last year during COVID, I had to really, as everyone else, had to really kind of think about how do I do my business differently. I had just acquired 2 large clients. I was also caretaking for a parent who later passed away in July. And I was experiencing making decisions 2 ways. Number one was I avoided making decisions at all. And then number 2, I would make decisions in haste because I was burned out. And at that time, I wasn't recognizing that I was burned out and exhausted and fatigued. And I was experiencing a stressor that was chronic. And so finding it hard to make decisions can look many different ways, as well as avoiding time to connect with people. And I thought this was interesting because as COVID, we had to kind of stay away from people. But what this means is that you know that you're starting to pull away. So I'm curious for any of you here, and you can type a 1 in the chat if you've experienced any one of these, especially over the last 1.5 years of COVID. Yeah, I'm seeing several people typing in 1. Yeah, absolutely. Christina, thank you. She's like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Thank you for that. So now that we've kind of chatted just a little bit, set a foundation of the difference between stress and anxiety, and why as business owners we decide like we're going to take this on as a challenge, and how do we navigate with it, is I want to talk and really invite you into this conversation of the 4 strategies to increase your stress resiliency. Because I'm an overachiever, I added a bonus one for us as well. So the first one of these 4 strategies is to reframe how you think. One of the most helpful tools is to reframe a situation. So this is where knowing kind of what sparks some feelings of stress is really helpful. But even if you don't, when you start to kind of get that feeling in your gut that you're overloaded or you're overwhelmed, or you're threatened, or there's some kind of conflict, it's starting to think about other ways to characterize the situation. Reframing really requires an examination of the situation from a different perspective, and is asking yourself, like, what else could be going on here? For example, if I lost a valued staff member and they resign, I might focus on, oh man, what am I going to do? How am I going to find another person? My client's going to be upset. Now I've got this other to-do list that I've got to do. So I can take a step back and I can choose to reframe it as a chance to, 1, okay, this sucks, but this also might be an opportunity for me to hire new talent. It gives me an opportunity to look at, okay, maybe this person was really good, but how can I fill this role or fill a like role with even better talent that's going to better serve my client? It's what are the benefits of this situation, or what might be my interpretation of the situation that I might be missing? So how can I look at this position being open differently? If I think about my clients, how could it serve my clients better? Is this the right role for right now? And what can I learn about myself or my team, etc., looking back as this person starts to leave? Arthur, I just wanted to acknowledge your comment. Thank you so much for that. So another really good example of reframing it from a personal perspective is what's called cognitive reappraisal. And it's a way to talk to your mind that's, honestly, our minds are kind of built for this, but our minds really love to ruminate and admire problems and our negative thoughts. And we're actually kind of hardwired to think negatively because it was a way for us to protect ourselves. And so we kind of have to be intentional about reappraising or reframing the situation for our mind to adopt kind of a detached attitude towards the activity or the event or the situation. So an example of this is I have a really love-hate relationship with running. I really hate running, but I love kind of like, if you're a runner, if you're a person that does some kind of exercise where you start to feel that rush, they call it the runner's rush or something like that. I don't know what it's called. But you start to kind of feel that adrenaline. I love that feeling, but it takes me so long to get there. So when I run a 5K, and I put that in quotes, air quotes, when I run a 5K, instead of thinking, I'm tired, my legs hurt, I can't run anymore, I could reframe my thinking to things like, okay, I'm exercising and I chose to do this, so I might as well enjoy this. So take in what nature has to show me. Or, if I just slow down one pace, I might actually feel a little less tired. So how this might also look in my business is maybe I'm experiencing that a client relationship is not going very well and I might lose this account. So I can reframe and reappraise. How do I feel about this situation? Well, honestly, I feel really stressed about it. A key thing about stress and anxiety is actually acknowledging it, because it loosens the power of the effect of that stress and anxiety. So I'm stressed, I'm not really sure what to do for this client, so I'm going to reevaluate and reframe. I'm learning a lot more about what my client or my customer needs are in order to provide and deliver even in a more exceptional client experience. And so what are some ways that I could brainstorm either with my client or with my team or a trusted mentor to think about this differently? So I just want to check in with everybody. Is this landing with anyone? Anyone feeling this? I'm seeing some head nods. Awesome. Okay, I can already hear the eye roll, so just get it over with. All right, Alison, right, sleep. Yep, okay. So, number 2, in building your stress resiliency is get some sleep. We all know, I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. We know that this sleep really offers numerous benefits, and sleep can make you a better leader. But many people in leadership, and leadership meaning business owners, entrepreneurs, leadership impact, we're willing to still sacrifice some sleep to get even more work done. And I'm raising my hand here. I have to catch myself with that. And sometimes even my kiddo will have to come and say, Mama, you need to get out of here. So 42% of leaders really try to get by on 5 hours or less of sleep, which means 2 out of 3 leaders aren't getting enough sleep. And sleep is so vitally important because it really allows our brain to go from taking in new information and new inputs to working in the background of encoding, of processing, and integrating the day's experience. I mean, it is a tool that is biologically for us in order to make it available in future use. As I shared with you, I had experienced some pretty high intensity time in 2020, as many people did. What I found as a personal experience is it was hard for me sometimes to kind of draw on my own memory, draw on my own solution-based mindset when I wasn't sleeping enough. And so sleep-in is that built-in biological source of resilience that many of us don't realize or fully utilize. What it does when real sleep happens, it really enhances our attention and intention, as well as creativity. And I don't know about you, but as an entrepreneur and a business owner, these are the 2 main capacities needed in our positions. I see some of you kind of nodding in that. So here's the reality though, because you're right to eye roll with me. I also suffer from insomnia. So when someone said, okay, Alison, you just need to get more sleep, I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, I know. But there's days And many of you may have put on events where sometimes those major events, you don't get enough sleep, or there's a big project that's on your plate, or there's a problem that needs to be solved that's kind of consuming time. So what can I do instead of saying, okay, Alison, I need to get 8 hours of sleep? What is a substitute of sleep that I could utilize? So if you just can't get what you need, take a restorative break during the day. Many of us have smartwatches or alarms on our PCs that will say, okay, every hour, get up and away from your desk, take 2 steps away, close your eyes and stretch, or go for a walk, or if you can, take a short nap. Sometimes just taking a moment away and closing your eyes for 5 minutes is just enough. And so these practices really, what it does is take your attention away from the specific situation or events that are happening at hand. And it really gives your mind a chance to move beyond the stressful thoughts and the anxiety that your body feels. You'll soon receive a leadership toolkit from Caleb, and I list some resources in there, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of those resources too. But being a mindful leader, and this is really getting enough sleep and or finding ways to substitute some of that sleep, really makes you a mindful leader. And it really is a better way and a more intentional way of leading your business, your clients, and your teams. So here's number 4. And it's exploring the power of positivity and possibility. Research by Barbara Friedrichsen and others have demonstrated that positivity helps people recover from setbacks. And I know I can also hear some eye rolls here too, because when I did this, like, okay, yeah. When positivity does not mean everything is great, everything is good, let's look at this from a positive point of view. That's not what this is. Positivity really is a broad term that covers many positive emotions like love, joy, appreciation, hope, even serenity, curiosity, and amusement. Researchers have found that when we are in a positive state of mind or a joyful state of mind or a hopeful state of mind, that we tend to think more broadly than when we stay in a negative state of mind. Negative states of mind tend to squeeze and narrow the possibilities. When we start to shift our mindset from a place of gratitude or appreciation or hope, it starts to expand the way that our brain actually works to think about the possibilities. When we think about the possibilities, it reduces stress and anxiety. So it is looking for the good in situations, but it's also like savoring the feelings when they do happen of gratitude. So maybe you're going to the happy hour tonight and you get excited being around people, really savoring that moment. Like, don't let that go to waste. Especially as high achievers, we tend to, okay, we've got this, we made this milestone, great, let's go on to the next. We made this call, great, on to the next. And so we tend to even narrow the possibility of celebrating our wins, which then also increases our ability when we celebrate those wins, even the small wins. It will open up our minds and our problem solving and our creativity to the power of possibilities. We need that resilience, not just at work, but also in our personal lives, and especially as we start to come out of COVID. We still won't know the mental effects of COVID for at least another year or two. And so having this sort of inner strength is really, really helpful from all the things that life tends to throw at you. I'm reading a really incredible book called Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it. But one of the things that she talks about is the one thing that you can count on as always is change and evolving through that change. And so resilience and starting to really navigate the stress and anxiety that you may feel really allows you to kind of bounce back and be at your best. This also allows the emotional muscle to see and experience the power of possibility from multiple perspectives and thinking. So here's my bonus for you. And I kind of hinted at it earlier, and it's mindfulness. A lot of people, when they think about mindfulness, they think of meditation, and then I have to sit crisscross with my hands in mudra and I'm not saying that can't be included in it, but Mindfulness really is just paying attention to our thoughts, our emotions, the sensations in our body in the present moment in a non-judgmental way. It's really incredibly simple, and it's not always easy, but it's so necessary. So I'm going to talk about 3 mindfulness practices, and we're actually going to do one that's going to be so simple, you won't even have to close your eyes, but we're going to practice one together. And when you can actually take this exercise and do it anywhere and no one ever has to know, which is really cool. So the first one is called Small Moments Many Times. It's just as it says, it's really appreciating those small moments many times. So you can kind of think of it in one of 2 ways. First, it's, it's waiting a few seconds to pause for a moment before you turn on your computer in the morning. Or letting the phone ring if somebody's actually calling you and you're willing to pick it up. Letting it ring a few times before you answer, or before you go into a meeting with someone or a client or a connection with someone, pausing before you go in to meet them and ask yourself, what do I want to feel, think, and know about myself? Or what do I want to feel, think, and know about my client at the end of this meeting? What do I want my client to feel, think, and know by the end of this meeting? And just taking that moment, that small moment, to pause. And secondly, that kind of, Christina, I love this. I'm going to share what Christina said. I pause and take a breath before driving so I won't be frustrated by other drivers. I love that. So true. And sometimes I have to put on meditation music in order to make that reality for me. The next one is the 5 senses. I'm going to actually come back to that because that's the one we're going to practice. The other one is mindful focus. And one of the ways that you can do this, I find that a quick 10-minute mindfulness moment or a meditation midday while my brain is chattering at its full blast. And I can also feel my brain starting to crash. So that happens around 2:30 for me. I intentionally take a break. And I either utilize one of the apps to kind of bring me back to center. I go for a walk around my neighborhood, or I just push away from my desk and go sit in a different place where I'm not in front of my computer and close my eyes. And what it will do is bring me right back to the place where I can come back to my desk, look at what I have left to do, look at how much time I have left to do it, and then prioritize appropriately. And what that does is that it deliberately it drives me into deliberate and intentional productivity with much more focused mind and head, really. And the truth is that the results of that, the outcomes of that, are actually better when I take a moment to pause and then come back to the work, especially if I'm in back-to-back meetings. If I can build in that buffer of time between those meetings, I'm so much more present with either my team or my clients or with the task at hand. There's endless benefits to this. It helps with better focus. It actually saves your eyes from unnecessary damage. I'm addicted to my phone, so I understand like being here and being here can damage your eyes. So getting away from that, and that will also like physically help to release some of the anxiety you might feel. And of course, it lowers blood pressure. There's so many benefits to this. And so now I want to go back to the 5 senses. This is a very simple exercise that will take less than approximately 2 minutes. And so what I'm going to invite you to do is, if you can, if you're able to, just kind of slightly turn away from your computer and just listen to me. You don't have to close your eyes or anything. This is an exercise where you're actually going to use your eyes. But just to kind of, one, so you're not concerned of what if other people are staring at you, but also just to get move your eyes away from the desk. I'm going to invite you just to take a big, deep breath in and out. Take one more deep breath in and utilize that breath and fill up all the spaces. Imagine that breath just kind of filling up all the spaces within your lungs, your belly, your back, and you might even start to feel how your shoulders are coming down from your ears. And take one more breath at your pace, in and out. And so the 5 senses, we're going to utilize our 5 senses to come back to a centered place. And so the first one is, what are 5 things that you can see? I see a phone, I see a lamp, I see the clock on the wall. What are 5 things? And just name those 5 things in your mind. What are 4 things that you can hear? So you might hear the AC, the clock ticking, but maybe just beyond the room that you're in. What are 4 things you hear? Maybe it's dogs outside or people talking. Making sure that you're taking another deep breath in and out. What are 3 things that you can feel? Maybe you feel how your toes feel in your shoes, or your hair on your neck, or how the chair is supporting your body. Now, what are 2 things that you can smell? Maybe your coworker put in a tuna fish sandwich somewhere. What are 2 things that you can smell? And then the last is 1 thing that you can taste. So maybe you just had a sip of coffee, or you were just eating your lunch, or you can literally pick something to taste in your mouth. And then just take another big deep breath in and out. And when you're ready to come back, you can come back and face us. So it's 5 senses. It's 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can feel. And feel is both literally as well as emotionally, but I wanted you to kind of focus on the literal part. 2 things that you can taste, and 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. So see, hear, feel, smell, and taste. If any of you have children, so I have a kiddo who also is prone to anxiety, and this is an exercise that I utilize with them on a consistent basis, as well as the 4-box breath, which is a great tool for anyone to use. So if you just do a search of the 4-box breath or just box breath, there's some really great YouTube videos that take you through a breathing exercise. But the 5 senses is a really great tool to kind of de-escalate for yourself, but also if you have children or have interaction with someone that is experiencing anxiety, just walk them through that. So as we start to wrap up our time together, I want to leave you with this quote. The time to relax is when you don't have time for it. And so I'm going to encourage and invite you to do is, there were multiple things that we talked about today of what you could try. And there's plenty of other things that you can try too. In the leadership toolkit that'll be shared with you later, there's some additional resources in there for you to try. What I would invite you to do is just pick 1 thing. And just do that 1 thing for 3 weeks, even if it's 2 times for 3 weeks, and see if that works for you. And it is not a failure if doing a 30-minute meditation is not for you. It just means you process differently and need to try something else. So don't give up until you find the 1 thing that works for you, and then you can add more things, but just focus on 1 thing that just moves the needle a little bit 1 way to start to really reduce your stress and anxiety, particularly when it comes to mental health and wellness as a business owner and entrepreneur. So I'd love to just hear from you. You can either unmute yourself, type it in the chat, or provide it here. What is 1 action you feel like you could take this week towards reducing your stress and anxiety? And so the way this will show up is you can just text me what that 1 thing might be. You can write it in the chat, or I invite you to unmute yourself.
Yeah, Allison, nice to meet you. First,
Hi.
so sorry for your loss. Thank you for your presentation. It was very helpful. And one thing that I plan to do is carve out more time to sleep. That's been my number one challenge.
I love
Yep.
it. So what's one thing you could do to make that happen?
I've already started cutting out things that can either wait, because I was the one who answered that I thrive off of stress, but it's not healthy. And I've been working with a naturopath in Texas, and also an accountability partner who has shown me that I actually do have a choice to sleep more, because I was averaging about 4 to 5 hours. And so I realized, yes, I do have a choice to cut back and what's on my plate, learn how to say no, because I'm single, and I do volunteer a lot. So a lot of times people see single people as having more time to give and volunteer. And I'm active in my church, and I just don't know how to say no. So I'm learning how to set some boundaries and learning how to say no. And I actually just recently added sleep to my self-care plan. So that's part of my self-care. Thanks for letting me share.
Marnie, thank you for, first I just want to acknowledge your bravery for coming off of mute and sharing that, and acknowledging what I'm also hearing you say is that this is a journey, and I'm learning these things and I'm incorporating new things along the way. So I really want to acknowledge and hold that space for you. So thank you for sharing that, Marnie. Anyone else like to share a takeaway or a key action that they'll start to utilize or at least explore to help reduce and release some of the stress and anxiety for our mental health and wellness?
Yeah, I'll go. I loved that mindful minute practice from the bonus material. And I think that's something I'm going to start doing. I think I love to pack my schedule so that I'm running from one thing to a next. And I, for some reason, think that's efficient use of my time. And when I'm okay, hold on, I'm still wrapping up from that last space that I was in. And so, so kind of taking this as an invitation to instead maybe build in transition time. And if not 20 minutes, even 1 minute to just kind of pause, gather, collect, in order to be present in, my next consulting meeting or conversation. I really like that.
Yeah, and Morgan, you really hit on a key point too. It doesn't have to be this big thing, and all of us are high achievers in here, so I know that we like to create this big plan and have big action, but really mindfulness and taking a moment to pause doesn't have to be a big thing. It can just be that moment for myself, that moment before I meet with someone, that moment before I connect, before I do something. It can be just in that one thing. So I appreciate, Morgan, you sharing that. Anything else? And then I have just one more thing I'd like to share with you.
I'll share. So I actually had an anxiety attack last week, and I reached out to my therapist for help because nothing else I was trying was working. And she sent me these 3 yoga poses. And so it's cat and cow and then child's pose. And when you do all these and you take long breaths in between, it somehow released all of my anxiety and got me back to feeling normal. And so yoga really can make a big difference.
That's so good, Christina. And those are poses that for most individuals is fairly easy to do. So appreciate that. And I want to share, on this slide, there are, some next steps to consider. There's some resources. I wanted to make sure that I shared resources that were accessible to all. There's a ton of free resources that are available. If you have an organization where you have benefits, please check in to see if your benefits includes mental health and wellness for your people. I would highly encourage to, especially as you're thinking about equity in your business, to make sure that is accessible for everyone. When we can bring our whole selves, it only benefits everyone when we can do that. And so for those of you that are here today, I'm also here to help support you I offer a 30-minute brainstorming discovery session to how else can I incorporate mental health and wellness into my business or my practice or my personal space. And so there's my contact information. And then also in the leadership tool, that information is there too. I wanted to read another person's response here is, I read Bible verses and positive affirmations in the morning and before I go to bed. It's my time to focus and refocus. Thank you so much for that. And that is all I have today. I'm also willing to, I'm sure Caleb has some things to share, but also I'm here to answer any questions or brainstorm. But I just want to thank each one of you for being here today. I appreciate your willingness to try something new, or at least a moment to pause. And if there's any way that I can help serve and support you as well, please let me know.
Awesome. Alison, let me start off by saying thank you so much for this presentation and this workshop. It's been fantastic. I appreciate your willingness to share with us. I'm going to leave the floor open. I don't necessarily have any announcements, but if anyone has any questions they want to, bounce off of you, or, I'll just leave the floor open for the next few minutes if anyone wants to say anything.
I, had to take myself off mute. Hearing mindfulness helped reset. It's top of mind that we have 1,440 minutes we have in each day. So true. Thank you, Arthur.
I'll jump in and add two quick announcements, which is that this Friday, if you, so I work with Caleb at Startup Junkie, and this Friday from 3:30 to 5, we're having an open house happy hour event at our office. And so if you haven't swung by and seen our space, we would love to meet you. And we'll have some local craft beer and cider on tap, as well as non-alcoholic beverages. And then it's followed up by an event on the Fayetteville Square called Sip and Shop. So lots of businesses are open. So I wanted to just jump in, and I just love getting a chance to meet people in real life. So if you're in Fayetteville this Friday between 3:30 and 5, I hope you stop by. We're on the square. And then we are having a women's entrepreneur event on May 8th in downtown Springdale at Fairlane Station. So if you don't have to be a woman to attend, but it is just designed to showcase and celebrate and elevate network women startups and small business owners in Northwest Arkansas. So we've got information about that on our website, but I just had to jump in because I love community building, and I'm really excited to be able to have in-person events. And Alison will be at our June 8th event. So if you want to meet her in real life, that's your shot. And Irma, yeah, we'll send you those. I'll put links to those. Oh yeah, I meant June 8th. I'm not sure what I said. Thank you, Arthur. Did I say like January 8th?
It's okay.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll drop links to both of those in the chat as well. So I just had to jump in and add those.
I will. I'm trying to copy those right now, those links to those two events, just to make it easier.
You can send it out in the follow-up email too if you want, Caleb.
Well, no, you said we'll drop them in the chat, so I'm going to drop them in the chat. All right, those are there. Again, thank you everybody for participating in this workshop today. We're glad to see you. Hope to see you at future Startup Junkie events. Again, Alison, thank you for the presentation. Hope everyone has a great Thursday, and we'll see you at the next one.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.